This is Deborah Johnson for Women at Halftime, and I'm passionate about helping women use their untapped skills, resources, and talents to create their ideal work and lifestyle, making a difference in their second half. Hello, this is Deborah Johnson, and it's so good to be with you today. I enjoy these episodes so much, and I am loving the subject today, getting things done through deep work. And in case you're puzzled by what deep work is, we will kind of delve into that a little bit today. So to start off, today as this airs, is the last day for our Learn Music Again membership. You can get there by learnmusicagain.com. There are many free downloads on that page, but the membership is open. This is the last day for that. It opens up every 3 months. And of course, you can get any of our separate music courses anytime. And for homeschoolers, if you are interested in a program for your kids, starting piano from the very beginning and learning right along with them, Keys to the Keyboard is a wonderful, wonderful program for that. And I hope you take advantage of that and look at that. You can always look at the first introduction video of any of those absolutely free. So take advantage of doing that. So anyway, let's get to our subject. It's a good one today, getting things done through deep work. And I entitled this message, an episode, I wanted to delve a little bit in this because I read that book, Deep Work by Cal Newport. And I realized after I read it that that's how I have done my projects and completed my projects for so many years. And often I will get the comment like, oh, I can't believe how much you're getting done. How do you do everything? Do you ever sleep? And oh, yes, I do. But I've just had this habit of putting my head down and doing chunks of my projects and getting them completely done with deep concentration and deep focus. And I'd really never labeled my process before reading this book other than just chunking it. And actually, that's exactly how I entitle my process, and I describe it. But I thought it would be really good to go into what the principles of deep work and how I have applied those throughout the years in my process and how important that process is. And what it is, it's a concentrated effort. And I've even used a timer at times to keep me on track. Usually with projects, I don't need to use a timer. What I use a timer for is like cleaning my office or doing something, almost a rote project. So it's opposite of what some of my other colleagues do. They need to set the timer for their projects. Well, I kind of do it in the opposite way. But it helps me stay on focus for some sort of a cleaning or organization process. So, but in my business and in my life, I've also been on a journey to pursue an avenue of thought leadership. And thought leadership is not a cookie cutter clone of what every other people are doing. What it is it's usually when you're paving a little bit of a new way. And it's not like I have tons of original ideas, although I am a composer and I create all the time. But it is using that deep concentration to come up maybe with some new principles, a new way to do things, and innovative and even creative. And since my journey has always been to create content with multiple albums. I'm looking at my wall, over 24 albums and musicals and books, and putting a label on that, what I am doing and what I am pursuing has been actually kind of freeing and helpful for me. So, but it's definitely not taking the path of filling up every minute of my time. And I don't fill up my time with phone calls, appointments, and busy work. And although I have to schedule some of those in, but having those chunks, quality chunks of time to create is really what I have been about for years. And I'm going to describe what Cal Newport describes as deep work and shallow work. The deep work is distraction-free concentration, and it pushes your cognitive capabilities to their limit. Now, those are some big words, but basically it's just concentrated effort. And the shallow work, this has helped me to describe this a little bit, but it's the non-demanding logistical style tasks. And you can usually multitask doing these, and I do at least, and I can do multiple things at a time. So kind of deciding what parts of my day I'm better for shallow work and deep work is important. And when I'm up early in the morning, I do some shallow work there first before I work out usually. I usually plan the night before so I can do some of those rote things, sending out multiple emails, or just answering things there early in the morning to where I'm not going to be having a real concentrated effort until, after I exercise and probably after I have a little breakfast in the morning, because I won't say how early. I get up very early. So, but it's becoming, doing this deep concentrated work is becoming increasingly rare. And at the same time, it's becoming increasingly valuable because the people that are doing this sort of work are starting to stand out a little bit from all the other, I call them all the other cookie cutter clones. So, and I think, I'm not after to be this big, big standout, but I really want my work to be creative and not just like everyone else's. My music is not like everyone else's. My musicals they're different. They're my style. So putting your style on is really important here in how to cultivate that. So, and when you think about deep work, you're maximizing the time that you can spend. And you can do this in small spurts. I know some people are trying to do this longer and longer. In fact, Cal Newport said in his book he's trying to stretch the time out that he can be doing deep work. Well, for me, with the creative process, I work so much on a project. I think about a little bit that I need to finish. Like today, I wanted to finish a certain arrangement completely and print it out so then I can look at it. I'm a pen and paper girl, and I need to print it out to see how it looks on the page, especially a music score. And then I need to play it through and make sure I've got everything right on it. So those parts of that was my goal, to finish this. And I did. So I just stayed at it until that particular thing was done. And then I took a little break. And then I'll go to something else that I can really concentrate and finish. So I'm going to talk about 5 main little principles here that will help you hopefully on your journey of creating deep work, or I call it concentrated work. But our principle number 1 is to set aside time for concentrated work. So you want to find out what time of day works for you. Many musicians that have been in my field, they are night owls, definitely. And I know a couple of my friends, if I email them in the morning, I won't hear from them until afternoon, and they've got a different time schedule. And some of that comes from doing club work for years, and I've done club work as well, where I have had to play until 1, or I don't get home until 2, and sometimes, and you're getting up. Usually I had kids at that stage too. My goodness, I can't believe I did that. So, but it's from doing some of that. They were doing it more often than I was, because I would only do a couple nights a week. Well, some of them did that, 6 nights a week. And so, that makes a difference on your schedule and when you are freshest. And some of the creative time for many of my musician friends has been in the evening. And that is not my best creative time. It's usually in the morning for me. So, and I do it kind of in chunks. So here, if you need to set your timer, you can do that for a particular section of a project. And I have put aside time thinking, okay, this next half hour, I'm going to work just on this. So that really does help. And it's also a big proponent of working remotely, because if you want to do that, you need to have concentrated, deep work that you can do almost anywhere, bringing those projects with you. And to some of my friends, it feels like, oh, you're a workaholic. But really, I'm just working on a project. I'm finishing a little part in it. And when I'm concentrated and on something specific for about 30 to 45 minutes, I get a lot done. In fact, we were just at remotely. I was just remotely working. In fact, about a week or a week and a half ago. And I got up earlier than anyone else, and I had a couple things to finish in writing, and I had my laptop right there, and I had about 30 to 45 minutes and got a lot done, and then was able to put it away and go on with when everyone else was getting up and the whole thing. So just find out what works for you of that concentrated work and concentrated area. And it'll free you up. When you put that into your day, it'll free you up for the rest of your day, guaranteed. And then our principle number 2 is to put together a routine. I talk a lot about good routines and healthy ruts and routines here. So, and even though it feels like you're getting in a rut, you're not. You're setting up some sort of a routine that will work for you. And it's a management tool is what it is. And many people don't understand the benefit of that management tool. That's a Peter Drucker principle there. And it works really, really well. And there's a lot of studies done on this. Even when we're talking about a routine, we're talking even nutritionally and eating with nutritional timing. And if you haven't gotten some of my nutritional timing, this is not all about nutrition, but it's all around goal setting. So if you look up goalsforyourlife.com, my website, goalsforyourlife.com/goal-setting-worksheet. There's some goal setting worksheets right there and free downloads. I've got, I think, 4 on that page, including nutritional timing that came from, we had a son who was a trainer and some great information in there. So again, goalsforyourlife.com/goal-setting-worksheet. It works really well in many, many instances, but some sort of routine. Watch different blocks of time, see when you do work best, and schedule those in, and that you'll be able to get things done. And watch also as you are putting together your routine. This is why I mentioned nutritional timing and diet. If you're finding a lot of times that you are just exhausted in the afternoon, just exhausted, go ahead and take a little cat nap. That's okay. Or watch what you're eating. So if I have some sort of sugar, I will have a sugar drop, almost guaranteed. So, which I have a hard time staying away from sugar. I have a grandfather that put sugar on his ice cream. It would. I came from Georgia. Hey, we had a lot of sugar, had a lot of desserts. So I'm very fortunate that I'm not heavier than I am. So, but yeah, that's number 2. So first of all, again, you're putting your time aside for concentrated work. And number 2, you're putting together a routine. So it's regular. It's almost automated that you don't have to think about it too much. And principle number 3 is to regulate social media and email. Now, I have listened to some writers and authors and speakers lately that they say you just need to kind of quit social media on a lot of your devices. And I say you just need to put it aside. It is distracting, and when you're seeing messages, all of a sudden, instant messages coming up, you want to check those so bad. And it's difficult to stay in a concentrated mode. So I need to turn my phone over, put it in a different part of the room, not even have it handy. And then I will concentrate on my work, and then I'll go back and just check messages, because usually you're not going to have emergency messages unless you are in the middle of a hurricane, an earthquake, or a family real crisis, something like that. So you can put that aside. And also there are those programs and a lot of resources online, if you look for those, that will help you turn off your social media tabs and everything else that you have, even on your main computer. So the messages will not disturb you, and you won't be tempted to go to those sites when you're going, oh, I wonder what that response was. And it's very, very distracting. It's also mentally, sometimes if you're involved in a certain story with a person or whatever, it's hard to get back on track to what you're doing because it might be upsetting or it might be just lead you down a totally different rabbit trail. I find that my mind works so fast on some of those things that it's not a good thing for me to follow down a rabbit trail. I won't be able to get my projects done. And so anyway, our phones are called smartphones for a reason. They're small computers. So some people have a separate phone. Actually, some people have gone back to that flip phone. Remember those? Just to have a phone that won't have any social media on it. Boy, that's being committed. I am not that committed, to be honest. So, but I am committed to doing concentrated work and putting together a routine. And really, I work from the end in mind. I'll get to that too with my projects. But I get stuff done because I have certain small little goals, little steps there. So, and I usually make a point, of course, to stay off social media during long blocks of time when I'm working. I just know how distracting it is for me. And I'm not on social media even that much. But once you get on and you're like, oh, this is great. Oh, they're there. They're traveling there. How are they doing that? You're just going from here to there. So number 4, define and delegate rote work. This one's hard for me. I got to say that one again. Define and delegate rote work. And this is a process because there's a certain amount of rote work we all just have to do for ourselves. There's a certain amount that I need to do for my business. It's important for me to do it. It's no one else can, answer all my emails and all of I'm doing. But there are other things that I can farm out. It's hard to manage all of that sometimes, but if you get some sort of system, it will work for you. So finding what you can do, and those are usually the projects that is the shallow. It's the shallow work. It's the more rote things. There are things that I can't delegate. I can't delegate somebody to write my weekly article. In fact, I was just speaking with another content creator, and I was just kind of pursuing to see, well, could I farm some of this out? And I know some people do. And I've done that just really a small amount because most people like to hear from my voice, and I can have it edited, but that main message needs to come from my voice. And you can find writers like that. You can find ghost writers like that. You will pay for them. So, but some creative endeavors can be labeled as rote work, like painting, cooking, gardening. Again, I like to have some rote work just as a diversion. I like to be out in my yard and do some trimming and do some pruning. It's a total diversion for me, and I feel like I've accomplished a great deal when I'm trimming on a plant or a tree. It's very freeing for me and actually very fun. So on some of those things I like to do. Of course, I hire out a lot of that because we are on a big property. There is no way I can keep up with it. But keeping a certain amount of that rote work that you can have a diversion. And some people have needed this as they've been working at home quite a bit. And when you are just working at home and you're working in your home office, and it's like you're always in one place. It's like it's good for some people to go to an office, but when they haven't been able to do that, they need to do something to break it up. So start creating that now, even if you're going to be back at an office, but create little places that you can have a total mental break, a diversion. And that will actually end up freeing up your mind. And it'll give you, when I'm away, or if I'm doing even a short walk or doing something like that, I've been dwelling on something specific in my thought processes, I come up with these wonderful ideas just being away from it. That's a great principle. Many of you know that as you get away from it. But it's just an encouragement for that to delegate what you can. Realize you can't delegate everything. I mean, unless you really are to the place where most of your stuff is not totally creative. But you have to be able to, if you want to spend your time on creating, you have to delegate as much as possible on that. And I'm trying to do that. It's very difficult to do, but you have to be very organized. But to define it first is that shallow work. Define what that shallow work is. And I think you have to redefine it. You define it at one point, and then you come back to it and think, I can get rid of this as well. So there are things that I'm still trying to shave off from my schedule to do that. So anyway, number 5. Okay, so let's review all 4. I love review. Review is really, really important. It helps you remember. So number 1, you're setting aside time for concentrated work. And number 2, after you've set aside time, you're going to create a routine, a regular time. Now, to be honest, my routine is not always really regular every single day. It changes a little bit, but what I do in that day also changes a little bit. But for the most part, I know my morning times are going to be my freshest time for creating. So, and number 3, watch the social media. You're going to regulate that social media and email. Yeah, emails are also a very big distraction. Number 4, define and delegate that rote work, the shallow work. And you want to be able to spend time on that concentrated work. Most of all, if you are aiming to be that thought leader, if you are aiming to be, stand out in your field, and plus it's so much fun. It's just fun. And number 5, work with the end in mind. This is a huge part of what I do because I think about what I want to have completed. It's how I've done albums. I've decided when I want to release them, and I work backwards. And I've decided in musicals, I've written them and then booked the theater to perform them. It's a lot of pressure. So figure out how much pressure you can handle. So, but if you work with that end in mind, then you can kind of divide up your projects in steps. And I know I'm talking to the choir here a little bit of, you've done a lot of this, but people need encouraged with this right now. And especially if you're starting something brand new, if you're starting a side business, if you're starting or a new little area that you're wanting to pursue. I've been talking to many people who are just absolutely overwhelmed, and they need to start very, very small. And even creating a website, that's overwhelming some people. Like, what do I do first? Well, get a domain name. That's number 1. Start with that, just little bits. Do that one little thing. Once you do that, move forward. So tiny little steps, but the end where you're going to end up. So you have to realize there are a certain amount of things that you really need in a business. And so figure out what those are, and then those little tiny steps, and put a date on it. When you put an actual date on it, it will help you. It helps me quite a bit. You can always move it, but it helps you work backwards there to feel like you can actually do it in steps and really accomplish it. Now, one other thing that is important is not to get stuck on perfectionism, because many people don't produce or they don't move ahead because they have too much of that. It has to be just perfect. So be careful of that, of the perfectionism, and also of the procrastination. So perfectionism and procrastination are really, both of those will hold you back. And you can always revise. So when you are thinking about your end date in finishing something, if it's not happening, I hate it when I have a hard time with this personally. I will admit that when I think, okay, this is going to be done now, and I don't like it when it doesn't get done on time. But I know from experience too, don't rush it. It needs, especially in studio work, if it needs some more vocals or it needs redone, parts of it needs redone, I need to let that go and say, okay, let's revise. Because it really does need to be right. And at the stage of my career that I'm at now, I can't afford to put things out that are not really well done. I don't have to wait for them to be absolutely, absolutely perfect, but they need to be really well done. And I take some risks. Of course, I'm right along with everyone else doing, some Facebook Lives with sound and working through all of those little issues when you're by yourself and you're doing that. But still, it's when I am doing like a studio project or when writing a professional project, I hire editors. I have to rewrite and rewrite and rewrite again. So I just want it to be right. I want it to be as good as I could make it at that point in my life. So here we've got our 5 little principles. Again, I'm all about reviewing them. I hope I have not moved too fast, but for many of you listening, this is a review. So you're going to set aside, number 1, time for concentrated work. And it might be hard for you to get to that place, to be able to do that. You might be facing discouragement. You might be facing family issues, all sorts of things that it's really hard to do that. So you just have to, that's something intentionally that you have to do. And then number 2, put together some sort of routine. Again, that might change daily. Your days of the week might change. You might only be able to slip that in, a couple days a week, but hopefully you could do it very regularly as a habit, almost daily. And then number 3, to regulate your social media and email. And we know how deadly it is to get right to that first, because an hour can go by and you won't even notice sometimes, especially for some people in the evenings. And so you can be careful about that. And then number 4 is to define and delegate that rote work, the stuff that doesn't take you that deep concentration to where it's a little more shallow, but you can delegate and manage well. You have to be able to manage it if you delegate it. That's the big key here. And it's not always easy to do that, so just plan ahead on that. And then number 5 is to work with the end in mind. And all of these really apply to working remotely as well, to where you can get away. And when I get away, I like to be able to spend extra time on concentrated efforts in my writing. And to be able to do that, I have to have a lot of other things, the automation going. I have to have my newsletters done and scheduled. I have to have my podcasts scheduled. All of the platforms I'm on, I can schedule them way ahead of time. They will automatically go out. So all of those things, I can get together and have that done so it frees up my mind. And with, like, when I was doing recording sessions, we'd work 3 to 4 hours concentrated at a time, but we would take little breaks as well. So understand that that's all possible in what we're doing, that you can do those stretches, but make sure you can take a break. So I hope this has really helped you and encouraged you. I tend to get very excited about this subject, and we'll talk a little fast, so hopefully I didn't do that too fast for you today. So I really appreciate you joining me. And next week, I have a wonderful interview with Max Warren. And Max Warren is a part of our National Speaking Association. He and some colleagues, they started a business called Speaker Flow. And it was mostly for speakers, but the principles really apply to everyone who is creating a process. And I think you'll really, really enjoy, and it'll illuminate you a little bit about the speaking business as well and why he started that business. It's a fairly young business and where they are at in it and how they have had to adjust a little bit, but they all work remotely too. So they always have. So it's just a great little interview. You will enjoy the story behind Speaker Flow with Max Warren. So make sure you get your free downloads. Today's the last day at learnmusicagain.com. So make sure you take advantage of that if you are interested. And thank you for listening. I would love it if you would share this podcast with someone that you care about, and subscribe. And I really love reviews too. So if you have a moment to do that, I'd really, really appreciate it. So again, thank you so much for being with me today. Deborah Johnson with goalsforyourlife.com, womenathalftime.com. You can check out music too at djworksmusic.com. And I have a number of websites, but you can get everywhere from any of those. So thanks again for joining me today, and I'll see you next time. So bye for now. Thank you for joining us on Women at Halftime. Visit goalsforyourlife.com or womenathalftime.com for many more resources, downloads, and programs, or to get in touch with me. I'd love it if you leave me a review and tell your friends. So until next time, this is Deborah Johnson, signing off.